Since the beginning, the Star Wars franchise has been about superweapons, the Death Stars being some of the first and the most iconic. In the George Lucas era of Star Wars, the second Death Star was the most powerful superweapon we see in the Star Wars movies. As the EU has grown over the years, we've gotten bigger and deadlier superweapons that make the Death Stars look adorable by comparison. These are the top 10 most powerful and most deadly superweapons in Star Wars. One quick note though, given that
the ability to destroy a planet is insignificant next to the power of the Force,
I'm going to exclude individual Force users who have no trouble destroying a planet like Vitiate or Darth Nihilus, and will focus on ones created by technology. However, if it is something that incorporates the Force in some way, it'll still be eligible for this list. Not only am I going to talk about the capabilities of these weapons, I'm also going to talk about their history and their eventual destruction at the hands of the heroes. So, spoiler warning from here on out. Number 10. The Sunraiser. The brainchild of the Sith Lord Darth Mechus during the Cold War, the Sunraiser was a massive space station that manipulated and fed off stars in order to create superweapons. Inspired by ancient alien designs like the Starforge, the Sunraiser was built to leech the matter and energy off a star that it encircled. With enough energy to power entire civilizations, the Sith Empire used the Sunraiser to build superweapons like the Ascendant Spear, the Gauntlet, the Emperor's Shadow, the Undying, and the Silencer. Weapons that would have taken a decade to build and a vast amount of resources could now be created within months and powered by near infinite solar energy thanks to the Sunraiser. The Dark Council originally planned to build 6 more Sunraisers as well, which were to feed off the stars that were given to the Sith Empire in the Treaty of Coruscant. 3,643 years before the Battle of Yavin, SIS agent Theron Shan, who was apprehended within the superweapon factory, broke free of his captivity by rebooting his cybernetics and gained access of prison security. He snuck his way into the control room and paralyzed Darth Mechus with a toxic dart, giving him enough opportunity to turn off the Sunraiser's heat shields. The Sunraiser was then destroyed by the very sun that it was feeding off of, while Theron Shan made his escape. With multiple Sunraisers, the Sith Empire would have easily taken over the galaxy by constantly churning out various superweapons. In fact, the handful that it did manage to create terrorized the Republic for years. While the Sunraiser itself doesn't have destructive capabilities, it can make plenty of superweapons that do, which is the real danger behind it. If Palpatine had access to it, he could have potentially made a fleet of planet-killing Death Stars. Number 9. The Starforge. Very similar to the Sunraiser that was inspired by it, the Starforge was a giant automated space station and battle dreadnought that could create a near infinite amount of ships and droids that in the wrong hands could be used to conquer the galaxy. Created by the Rakata Infinite Empire 30,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, this ultimate weapon fed on the dark side of the Force, and only a powerful Force user could use the Starforge without getting corrupted by it. In many ways, the Starforge was a living entity that draws on the energy of all living things. This massive tool of the dark side that drew off the negative energy of its creators is what caused the Rakata to turn on each other and led to the downfall of the Infinite Empire. Thousands of years later, Darth Revan and Darth Malak sought out the Starforge and kicked off the Jedi Civil War with the weapon now under their control. After Malak betrayed Revan, the Jedi Council erased his memory and directed him to find the star maps leading to the Starforge. 3,956 years before the Battle of Yavin, the Republic fleet with the assistance of Revan and his allies destroyed the Starforge in the Battle of Rakata Prime. Although very similar to the Sunraiser, and even though that the Starforge was never shown to construct superweapons of the same level, what makes the Starforge more deadly was its connection to the dark side of the Force. The Starforge's automated repair systems kept the Starforge operational for over 25,000 years, and the Temple of the Ancients on Rakata Prime was able to create a disruptor field, keeping ships from getting too close to the Starforge. Taking out this ancient weapon was a little more complex than sneaking on board and flipping a switch. It might not destroy planets in a single shot, but the Starforge can potentially create an infinite army of droids. It is similar to Palpatine's World Devastators, but on a way bigger scale. This space station has caused empires to fall, galactic wars to be fought over it, and is the subject of one of the greatest video games of all time. Number 8. Omega Red. Developed by Darth Malady around 130 years after the Battle of Yavin, Omega Red was a deadly toxin that could kill all life on a single planet, except Sith were immune to the plague. It was originally based on the Alpha Red pathogen, which was specifically created to kill all Yuuzhan Vong and Vong-related lifeforms, but it was Darth Malady who perfected it. During the Second Imperial Civil War, a captured Darth Malady attempted to manipulate Emperor Roan Fel to use it against his enemies, in exchange for the head of Cade Skywalker. He initially refused, not trusting the Sith Lord, but as the reborn Darth Krayt was becoming more powerful, and having just unleashed his own Sith troopers, Roan Fel ordered Darth Malady to create the toxin. But this was actually Darth Krayt's plan, for the Emperor himself to wipe out all life on Coruscant, except for the Sith. In his desperation, Roan Fel was prepared to use Omega Red to sacrifice all life on the city planet to defeat the Sith. His Imperial Knights rose up against him, and before he could launch the pod containing the deadly toxin, he was slain by one of his own knights. There are many bioweapons in Star Wars. Perhaps I'll make a top 10 list about those someday. But what makes Omega Red so much more sinister is that the only people that it doesn't target are the Sith, aka the worst people that you can think of. This was the culmination of the One Sith's grand plan. If Darth Malady is to be believed, Omega Red could wipe out an entire world in just a few breaths. That's a lot faster and more efficient than having a Death Star just go around the galaxy destroying planets one by one. You launch this into the atmosphere of all inhabited worlds in the galaxy, and the only survivors are the Sith. Also, it is never explained how the Sith are immune. Did everyone in Krayt's army get immunized beforehand? Or is this some sort of dark-sided midichlorian manipulation? My guess is probably the latter. Either way, if Omega Red was actually used, the Sith would have their ultimate victory. Number 7. The Galaxy Gun. Emperor Palpatine's final and most destructive superweapon was the Galaxy Gun. It was a massive space station, and like its namesake, a gigantic gun that fired particle disintegrator warheads that can travel through hyperspace. Built by Umak Leth 10 years after the Battle of Yavin for the reborn Emperor, this weapon was intended to end the Rebel Alliance once and for all. It had the ability to destroy a city, landmass, or even a planet anywhere in the galaxy. The first target of the Galaxy Gun was the Pinnacle Moon, where the Alliance had made their base. To Luke Skywalker and Cam Solusar's shock, a missile that suddenly came out of hyperspace collided into the moon and initiated a massive nucleonic chain reaction, until every molecule of the moon's core burst like an exploding sun. The Emperor's next target was the Alliance troopship Pelagia. Despite firing everything they could at the approaching missile, it was too heavily shielded, and the troopship was obliterated by the warhead. The mere threat of the Galaxy Gun was enough to make far-flung star systems like the Gamsen swear allegiance to Palpatine. When the Alliance relocated to the derelict city of Nespis 8, the Galaxy Gun was fired at their base there too. But luckily for them, the first missile was faulty and did not detonate, causing an enraged Palpatine to immediately order another missile be fired. Later on, after Palpatine was destroyed for good, R2-D2 hacked into the Emperor's flagship, the Eclipse II, and had it come right out of hyperspace and collide into the Galaxy Gun, right as it was about to launch, and misfired a warhead right into the Imperial throne world of Biss, destroying the planet and both of Palpatine's superweapons. Damn, maybe the real superweapon here is R2-D2. Under Palpatine's Empire, the Galaxy Gun was definitely the most powerful weapon they were able to come up with. The threat of destroying a planet from anywhere in the galaxy adheres to the Tarkin Doctrine 100%. Number 6. Infinity Gates. The Infinity Gates, invented by the Qua species on the planet Dathomir over 35,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, allowed them to traverse the galaxy. Containing the power of the cosmos in underground chambers, they created the Stellar Gateways, then shielded them on the surface with massive star temples. They discovered the Rakata species through the power of the Force, and shared with them the secrets of their advanced technology. But failing to recognize the true nature of their species, the Rakata used the Qua's technology to conquer the galaxy, calling themselves the Infinite Empire. They wanted the secrets of the Infinity Gates technology, but the Qua destroyed them before the Rakata could use them. 25,792 years before the Battle of Yavin, the Rakata invaded the planet Tython in an attempt to find and reawaken one of the lost Infinity Gates. Praetor Skal'nas hoped this Infinity Gate would help the Rakata, who were losing their ability to sense the Force, become the true masters of the galaxy. Right as Skal'nas discovered the Infinity Gate on Tython, Tasha Rio sacrificed her life to reawaken the Tho-Yor and destroy the Infinity Gate. 31 years before the Battle of Yavin, Night Sister clan mother Zalem discovered one of the original Infinity Gates created by the Kwa on Dathomir, and her meddling with the Cosmic Gateway resulted in the destruction of the planet Ova. Then, Zalem used the Infinity Gate to fire a wave of energy called an Infinity Wave at Coruscant to destroy the Jedi. Luckily, Jedi Knight Quinlan Vos was able to infiltrate the Star Temple and redirect the wave back at the Infinity Gate and destroy it. The Kwa never intended the Infinity Gates to be used in such evil ways, but if someone like skal'nas or Zalem were able to control one of them, they would have a superweapon that not only would allow them to traverse anywhere in the galaxy, they could also generate those powerful infinity waves and strike at any planet in the galaxy. The Kwa had invented multiple Infinity Gates, but all it takes is one to effectively take control of the entire galaxy. Number 5, their Gravitic Polarization Beam. 22 years before the Battle of Yavin, Separatist scientist Kol Teska created a gravitic beam to tear apart Naboo's sun, along with the rest of the Naboo system on the planet Belpor. Luckily, Padme Amidala, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, Mace Windu, Ahsoka Tano, and a battalion of clones infiltrated the facility and destroyed the weapon along with Kol Teska before it could be fired. 4 years after the Battle of Yavin, another gravitic polarization beam was secretly built by Professor Rorix Falcon. Rogue Squadron managed to steal the blueprints for this ultimate weapon described both as a portable planet slicer and a pocket Death Star, before Imperial Captain Loka Hask could use it. Wedge Antilles ordered the gravitic beam to be remotely activated on Loka Hask's Interdictor-class Star Destroyer. A wormhole opened in reverse polarization and swallowed the ship and everyone in it before it could escape into hyperspace. The weapon was taken by the Alliance under the watchful eye of Captain Antilles. Though this weapon was created twice by different mad scientists on different occasions, they seem to work functionally the same, but were never quite utilized to their full destructive capabilities. Teska was going to collapse a star with gravity, and there is nothing to suggest that he wasn't capable of doing that, especially with a gravitic weapon later used by Rogue Squadron, able to create a hyperspace wormhole. Teska's weapon was used on Belpor, a planet really close to Naboo's sun, possibly suggesting that the sun it is used on has to be within range. But considering that Teska and Dooku were in a facility close to Naboo's sun, they expected to survive despite being within the same system. There are still some questions about how the superweapon works, but there's no denying that gravity-manipulating wormhole creators are two of the most powerful weapons in Star Wars. Number 4. The Corsair. The Corsair was a capital ship used by Naga Sadow during the Great Hyperspace War 5,000 years before the Battle of Yavin. Naga Sadow had attempted to invade Republic space with his Sith fleet, but once the tide changed and he started to lose the war, Naga Sadow fled the battle with only a few of his ships. The Republic forces had chased Naga Sadow to the doorstep of his meditation sphere. Recognizing his defeat, Naga Sadow abandoned his forces and used the power of the Corsair to destroy a nearby star and everything in its vicinity as a distraction to escape back to Sith space. He was then outnumbered again, first by his rival Ludo Kresh's ships, and then shortly thereafter the Republic ships which had pursued Naga Sadow through hyperspace. To escape his enemies once again, he used the Corsair to set off solar flares between the twin stars of the Denari system. Naga Sadow considered the death of a star system a small price to pay for his own survival. In his single ship, he landed on the isolated Yavin system, and began to rebuild his empire from scratch. 1,000 years later, a disaffected Jedi named Exar Kun was led to Yavin 4 by the spirit of Freedon Nad. Exar Kun conquered Naga Sadow's Massassi warriors and discovered his ship, the Corsair. As the new Dark Lord of the Sith, Exar Kun created an unholy alliance between Ulic Qel-Droma, Mandalore the Indomitable, and Sith sorceress Alim Makedo. During their invasion of Coruscant, Alim Makedo betrayed Ulic Qel-Droma to the mercy of the Jedi and retreated prematurely, but Mandalore, who was loyal to Ulic, convinced Exar Kun to rescue him. Later, Exar Kun and Ulic Qel-Droma gave Alima the power of the Corsair on their next big military operation, but it was merely a ruse to eliminate her and some of the Jedi forces. Lying in wait in the middle of a star cluster, Alima used the Sith power in Naga Sadow's ancient ship to rip the core from one of the stars and destroy the Jedi ships, but also set off a chain reaction of supernovas, destroying both Alima and the Corsair, just as Exar Kun and Ulic Qel-Droma had planned. The Corsair is one of the most powerful weapons in Star Wars, even having the ability to cause supernovas. though I don't think the Sith utilized it to its full potential. Naga Sadow used it twice to escape the Republic, and Alima was tricked to use it to destroy herself, a handful of Jedi ships, and the Kron system. Number 3. The Suncrusher. Developed in the Maw installation in secret by a small group of scientists, led by Admiral Dalla, the Suncrusher was the most powerful superweapon created by the Galactic Empire. Its ridiculous design, and it being the size of a starfighter, belies its true power. Its armament of resonance torpedoes can fire into any star, causing it to go supernova, destroying any star system, and its quantum crystalline armor makes it impervious to almost any attack, such as the Death Star's super laser, and it can even withstand being in the same system as an exploding star. 11 years after the Battle of Yavin, Han Solo, Chewbacca, and Kip Duran found the Maw installation by chance, and were able to escape with the powerful superweapon. While escaping, Han Solo took advantage of the Suncrusher's special armor to fly through the bridge of a Star Destroyer, slicing through it like butter. Later, to keep the Suncrusher from falling into the wrong hands, it was placed within the gas giant of Yavin. Unfortunately, this did not work, as Kip Duran fell under control of the spirit of the Sith Lord Exar Kun, and stole the Suncrusher from the depths of the gas giant. Kip used the resonance torpedoes to destroy the Cauldron Nebula in an attempt to take out Dalla and her forces. Days later, Kip flew to the Karida system, where the Imperial Academy was located. He demanded to know the whereabouts of where his brother Zeth had been taken. Initially believing that his brother was killed, Kip fired a torpedo at Karida's star and waited. To his horror, he learned that his brother had survived and attempted to rescue him. However, he was too late, and his brother, along with the rest of the Karida system, was vaporized instantly. Han Solo, aboard the Millennium Falcon, managed to track Kip down and stop his rampage. Kip Duran took the Suncrusher to the Maw cluster to destroy the weapon, while Republic forces were attacking the Maw installation and a Death Star prototype. The Suncrusher and the Death Star prototype each traded blows with their incredibly powerful arsenals, but Kip was able to lure the prototype into a black hole. The black hole sucked up both the prototype and the Suncrusher, and destroyed them both once and for all, with Kip only barely managing to escape inside one of the Suncrusher's message pods. With ultimate offense and defense, a single individual could use the Suncrusher to bring the galaxy to its knees, destroying whole star systems in just a couple of hours. Kip had previously erased the scientist Kwi'zak's memories of constructing superweapons like the Suncrusher, but if anyone else were to create something similar, then the galaxy once again will be terrorized. More so than it is usually. Number 2. The Centerpoint Station. The Centerpoint Station was a massive space station created by the Killiks under the orders of the Celestials about 100,000 years before the Battle of Yavin. Using hyperspace tractor beams, the station had the ability to move giant objects like planets or stars through hyperspace. With this same power, it could easily destroy said planets or stars by collapsing their cores with gravity. The Centerpoint Station is responsible for creating the Corellian system, and the Maw cluster was created to contain Abeloth's prison. Over the years, people colonized and lived on the ancient space station, without really understanding anything about it. 18 years after the Battle of Yavin, Corellian insurrectionists took control of the station and threatened the New Republic for their independence. They used Centerpoint Station's hyperspace beams to annihilate the planet Thanta Zilbra. The leader of the Human League and Han Solo's cousin, Thraken Sal Solo, declared himself the Diktat of Corellia and used the station to throw up a communications jamming and an interdiction field over the entire system. Anakin Solo was able to use the massive repulsor beam on the planet Drawl to deactivate the station and redirect the hyperspace beam that was fired on the planet Bovo Yagin. During the Yuuzhan War, Thraken Sal Solo attempted to convince Anakin Solo, who had developed a connection with the ancient Centerpoint Station, to use it to fire on the Yuuzhan fleet. While his older brother Jason was able to talk Anakin out of firing the hyperspace beam, Thraken seized the controls and fired the superweapon. Even though it took out a large amount of the Yuuzhan armada, Thraken's carelessness wiped out a massive amount of the Hapen fleet as well. Later, the Centerpoint Station was again the center of conflict during the Second Galactic Civil War. Thraken Sal Solo managed to control the station by constructing a droid that believed it was Anakin Solo to imprint on the station. This was foiled when Ben Skywalker was able to persuade the droid and help it realize what was actually happening. During a later battle between Republic forces and the Corellian Confederation, a technician named Rickle attempted to fire the Centerpoint Station's hyperspace beam at Coruscant, though he hadn't realized the firing coordinates were reprogrammed, and Centerpoint Station ended up destroying itself, and inadvertently releasing Abeloth from her prison. Centerpoint Station is easily one of the most complex and lore-heavy installations in the whole Star Wars franchise. It can destroy whole star systems, but it can target them from anywhere in the galaxy. It can move stars or planets around, making them its playthings. It can create a communications jamming and an interdiction field around the entire Corellian system, preventing enemies from getting anywhere near it. And it can imprison a Force god. If it wasn't so unreliable to control and becoming inactive all the time, every story in Star Wars would be a race between factions of which can control this giga weapon first. And number 1, the Shockin' device. The Shockin' device is the most powerful superweapon in all of Star Wars, and it's not even close. Luke, Kiro, and Pliff the Hoojib, accompanied by the troublemaking treasure hunters Rick, Danny, and Chiodo, went on a diplomatic mission to the planet Shockin, after the Empire was defeated at the Battle of Endor. Rick, Danny, and Chiodo split off from the group to see if they could find anything interesting in the unexplored caves. Hearing the possibility that they might get up to something, Kiro tracked them down. Inside the ruins, they accidentally bumped into a switch that slammed the metal door shut, and the entire cavern pulsed with energy. After hearing that, Luke and the diplomat, Santor, also went to the ruins where they were fired upon by a sentry gun. Luke destroyed it, revealing a panel of the true nature of the Shockin' device. This was built by a nihilistic scientist, with the ability to destroy the whole universe and start fresh with a new Big Bang. With the help of Pliff the Hoojib, they were able to locate Rick, Danny, Chiobo, and Kiro trapped in the ruins. But they weren't out of trouble yet. Santor explained that the Shockin' device was designed to destroy the planet Shockin, sending it through hyperspace, colliding with several planets, which would also be destroyed and launched through hyperspace like an interplanetary game of marbles. This chain reaction will continue until all planets in the universe are destroyed. Luke and Kiro venture deeper into the ruins until they find a body of water. Since Kiro is from an aquatic species, he volunteers to be the one to stop the device. He dives underwater and slashes at a giant glowing stone face with his lightsaber, thus destroying the device, returning the ruins to normal, and potentially saving the universe in the process. It's questionable if the Shockin' device could cause this universal devastation. It was obviously deactivated before we saw the effects, so we don't know for sure. But in a franchise like Star Wars, I don't think it's too far out of the realm of possibility. The characters within the story sure treated it like a real threat. I'm going to as well. For their sakes, and for the sake of the entire Star Wars universe itself, I'm glad that we never saw it go off. And those are the 10 deadliest, most powerful weapons in all of Star Wars. What do you all think? Do you agree or disagree with any of the choices? Are there any super weapons that I missed that should be on this list? Let me know in the comments below.